Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the public hearing this evening for the Kingsbridge Armory Redevelopment. I am actually on my cell phone. I apologize. I'm having technical difficulties with my computer, but we will get this public hearing started. We're going to start off with our code of conduct. Bronx Community Board 7 has the right to remove a board member or a member of the public from a meeting for engaging in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene, threatening or harassing language, slander, threats of violence, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive inflammatory comments on the basis of ethnicity, race, age, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and/or disability. Members of the public who engage in any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting while at the board meeting shall be removed from the board meeting at the designation of the chair or a chair designee. We're going to move on to what our agenda looks like. Today is the public hearing for the Kingsbridge Armory Redevelopment. I am the Bronx Community Board 7 Chair, Jahaira Arias. Today's date, May 28, 2025, and this is a Zoom conference. Notice is hereby given that the following matters have been scheduled for public hearing by Bronx Community Board 7. Public hearing in the matter of an application submitted by 8th Regiment Partners, LLC, New York City Economic Development Corporation, and the New York City Department of Administrative Services to the New York City Department of, to the New York City Department of City Planning for a series of actions to facilitate the adaptive reuse of the Kingsbridge Armory and the development of a new mixed-use 16-floor building with approximately 500 dwelling units. The Kingsbridge Armory is located at 1 West Kingsbridge Road, Block 3247, Lot 10, which is currently owned by NYC EDC. The New York National Guard sits at 10 West 195th Street, Block 3247, Lot number 2, which is presently owned by the National Guard and occupied by 2 National Guard buildings. The project site occupies the portion of Block 3247, bounded by West 195th Street, Reservoir Avenue, West Kingsbridge Road, and Jerome Avenue. The proposed land use actions are the following. Disposition of city-owned property, Block 3247, lots 2 and 10, to 8th Regiment Partners, LLC by entering into a long-term ground lease for development and operations, zoning map amendments to rezone the project site C4-4 to M1-4 /R7-2 MX, zoning text amendment ZR74-1A2B to modify indoor arena capacity, ZR123-90 to establish the proposed special mixed-use district, special permit under ZR74-1A2B to allow an indoor arena capacity from 6,000 to 17,000 persons and permit modification of signage requirements, special permits under ZR74-195 to allow a public parking garage with capacity greater than 150 spaces. The proposed garage will have approximately 248 parking spaces and 13 reservoir spaces at the cellar level. Link to the project to NYC DCP zoning application portal is included in this agenda. NYDCP, May 19, 2025, review session was about 2 hours long. There's a bit.ly link for that. The draft environment impact statement, DEIS, identifies significant adverse impacts on air quality, noise, transportation, and construction. The city environmental quality review, CEQR, number 25DNE006X. There's a link to the draft of the environmental impact statement, final scope of work, and notice of completion on this agenda. To sign up, you had to use our bit.ly link, and we will move forward. Now I would like to move on to present Councilmember Pirina Sanchez, if she's here with us. Councilmember?
You go. Thank you. I was waiting on access to unmute. Hey, Chair. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I just wanted to join and thank Community Board 7 for your leadership, for your partnership in this process, and thank all of the members of the Together for Kingsbridge Working Group, which have included the the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, who is my co-chair in that process, our elected officials, Borough President Gibson, Congressman Adriano Espaillat, State Senators Rivera, Jackson, Assembly members George Alvarez, and Dinowitz have been so active, as well as the Bronx Economic Development Corporation, the BJT Merchants Association, Kingsbridge Merchant Association. The list is long, but I just want to thank everyone so much for your engagement. Today is a major milestone for the Kingsbridge Armory's third attempt at redevelopment, but we've never been in as strong footing as we are today, with over $220 million committed from the city and the state. And my commitment to you today is a very simple one. Tonight is about listening. Your voices matter. Your feedback is essential. Your participation can only make this project stronger. And so I'm committed. My team and I are committed to continuing to listen. We've asked 8th Regiment partners to make us an offer as a community that we can't refuse. And so far, they have been very, very good at listening, and I will beseech them to continue, especially with the feedback that we hear today. And so just in closing, I just want to say that the community, you all have my commitment to continue to center the principles that we came up with together in the Together for Kingsbridge Community Vision Plan, which was to prioritize our youth, uplift our older adults, foster intergenerational relationships, create job growth and wealth for local workers, grow regenerative Bronx-centered economy, and maximize community ownership. So today is the first formal step of the ULERP process, which Microsoft Word will autocorrect to slurp, is the funniest thing I like to say. But today is really about making your voice heard. There will be other opportunities, including next week in person. But just thank you so much. Very excited to be here at this stage and to listen to every concern that there is today. Madam Chair, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. This has been a project of many, many years to come. So we are super, super excited to have this come to fruition and hopefully, get to see what the Kingsbridge Armory can bring to our neighborhood. It's been a long time coming. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for your fight in getting this together for our community. And we can't wait. We can't wait to see what comes next. Moving it along, I'm going to pass it on to Sandra Lobo. Are you here with us?
I'm here.
Hi. The
Hello.
floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Lobo, Executive Director at the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition. And as many of you know, Northwest Bronx has been rooted in the Bronx for over 50 years, listening to, organizing with, and advocating alongside Bronx tenants, young people, workers, small businesses, and others. And for over 30 of those years, we've been organizing around the Kingsbridge Armory, believing that this extraordinary public asset can be a powerful engine for an inclusive and equitable community-centered economic development project. Throughout these 3 decades, Northwest Bronx has held one clear belief: that the people of the Bronx are the experts on what their communities need. It's not enough to include community engagement only to make decisions about our neighborhoods in rooms far from the people they affect. Residents deserve a meaningful role in determining what happens here, especially with a site as important as the Armory. And that's why you are here tonight. And that's why Northwest Bronx served as a partner early on alongside Councilmember Sanchez and EDC in engaging over 4,000 Bronxites and shaping a shared vision for the future of the Bronx and of the Armory. Through surveys, workshops, visioning sessions, community meetings, we all surfaced the core principles and priorities that matter most to our neighbors across generations and different backgrounds. We heard our community loud and clear. Unlike past attempts, you wanted real community ownership within the project. Ownership that would allow local businesses and entrepreneurs to generate shared wealth and ensure that our neighborhoods don't just survive, but thrive through inclusive, community-centered economic development. Northwest Bronx submitted a proposal that put that vision front and center. And while 8th Regiment Partners was ultimately selected as the developer, we to continue to uphold that vision, making clear that any redevelopment must include these core principles. EDC selected 8th Regiment Partners to lead this redevelopment. We entered in good faith negotiations, bringing with us our institutional knowledge and experience and the clear mandate from you, our community. Our goal was to translate that vision into concrete commitments to embed within the project. So tonight, I'm really proud to say, in collaboration with 8th Regiment Partners, that the resulting agreement between 8th Regiment Partners and the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition reflects many of the values and priorities that emerged through the public visioning process. Only some highlights from this agreement include 2 long-term sublease condos will be created, one for a community hub to support 25,000 square feet of community space, workforce development, entrepreneurship, and worker co-op businesses, and one for up to 100,000 square feet of affordable light manufacturing to house Bronx-based businesses that have already been displaced from the Bronx. Up to 20,000 square feet of affordable commercial space will be reserved for small and local businesses in the housing phase of this development, with a focus on vulnerable businesses along the Kingsbridge corridor. And in addition to the required project labor agreement with the New York City Building Trades, there is a commitment to encourage neutrality agreements to ensure quality, family-sustaining jobs, and protect the rights of workers to organize across the site. A community council co-convened by Northwest Bronx will be established to provide ongoing input on tenant mix, programming, and additional community benefit strategies. A community benefit fund governed by the community council will support long-term local investment in shared wealth building and community ownership initiatives. Through a master condo association, the community ownership portions of the project, the 2 condos, will have shared governance in major operational and strategic decisions. And finally, 8th Regiment Partners has committed to high environmental standards aligned with the community's priorities for sustainability and climate resilience. Each of these elements came from the community, and we took seriously our responsibility to carry that vision forward in a way that is legally sound, financially viable, and aligned with long-term community interests. You'll also hear about more community-aligned project elements in the presentation this evening that the 8th Regiment Partners has integrated into the project, which will include other important community partners and values-aligned components that are in direct response to what the community has called for over the past several years. And of course, there's so much more to do with all of you. The EDC vision plan elevated additional aspirations. We are still working to integrate more fully into the project, and we hope to hear from you tonight and throughout the ULURP process about what matters most to our community. And I want to be honest with you, this project is in process, and that's a good thing. What we've developed so far lays a solid foundation, and there's still room, a real need for your voices to shape the project. We're working hard to make this project financially viable, environmentally sustainable, and truly responsive to community priorities. But it will take all of us, our collective wisdom, the Bronx's creativity and innovation and vigilance to bring this vision fully to life. So as we enter into this ULURP phase, we ask all of you, residents, young people, elders, workers, members of the community board, city agencies, and elected officials to help us ensure that we are getting it right and that we have the best mechanisms in place to honor the vision that we all have for our community. We know that when we come to all together in transparent and accountable partnership, we can build a project that can be truly transformative. We look forward to hearing from all of you this evening and throughout this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Like I said before, this is a vision come true. We just can't be more excited to see it come to fruition for all of the residents of Community Board 7 and the surrounding areas. Okay, before we move on, I just would like to say that we did have a signing process for people to speak. Because this is a lengthy presentation. Those that get to speak at the end will be called upon by name. You will be able to unmute yourself, and you will have approximately 1 minute to speak. We know it may not be much, but we are going to be having an in-person public hearing come June 3rd. That information is being circulated as well. And this will not be the only time that there is the public's input. Throughout this whole process, there will be more public hearings, and we will have everyone's voice be heard for those that attend, whether it's going to be on Zoom or in person. We just wanted to make sure that that was established with everyone. Moving along, we're going to turn over the presentation to 8th Regiment Partners LLC so that they can start the presentation tonight. Take it away.
All right,
Hello.
we're going to have EDC begin, right?
Yes. Hello, folks. For those who I haven't met before, I'm Madison Hernandez. I'm the Assistant Vice President at EDC's Government and Community Relations team. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you to the council member and Sandra for kicking off this hearing. And just want to echo the sentiments about the importance of this moment and this site and this opportunity. We're extremely grateful for your leadership and your teams throughout this process. And so just to get us started, and we can get over to the next slide, please. For the agenda today, we plan to walk through our vision for the project, the design, and proposed programming. So far, our design team will walk through these new programmings, and we'll also go through a little bit about community hiring. We'll talk a bit about some of the concerns that we've been hearing from the community related to displacement, and then I'll talk through a little bit of the milestones we have upcoming as well. Next slide, please. And so while you can't really see in the Zoom box C, we have a robust team here today. We have the EDC team, the 8th Regiment team, FX Collaborative, Off-Gang, Ackerman, and C&V Consulting here to answer your questions and listen to the concerns or comments that the community may have today. And so they will introduce themselves as we go through the presentation, but just to give a little bit of a sense and awareness of the folks in the room today listening and really dedicated to hearing the input that we're going to hear today. Next slide, please. Okay, and so we're going to get a little bit into this project vision. And so I think it's always important to kind of ground our work in the robust history and engagement that has gone into this project. As you heard Sandra talk about a little bit earlier, we certainly wouldn't be at this point today without the work reflected here and the commitment of the people in this virtual room, and understand that many of you have worked closely on previous proposals and have been really dedicated to seeing this project forward. And we've received a lot of questions about how is this different and how do we ensure that we're going to see results. And so just kind of wanted to touch a little bit on that. This project is structured for success through its diverse revenue, securing upfront capital, and bringing in a really experienced team that's backed by the community, local partners, and informed by the Together for Kingsbridge vision plan. And this vision plan, as many of you are well familiar with and have put your own voices to this plan, it's truly been the guiding principle from the start, and will continue to shape the next steps as we move forward. And just to talk a little bit about what you see on the screen here, this was a 9-month community-led process that brought together over 4,000 voices. With 4 public workshops with more than 1,000 participants. We collected over 900 survey responses to understand these community priorities, brought over 500 community members inside of the Armory, and engaged with this body over 9 times, and hosted 16 small group discussions, and held 3 public information sessions, and heard from over 75 industry stakeholders. And so we like to kind of put this out there so folks can really grasp that this was not a top-down process, but it was truly built from the ground up with the voices of the folks in this room and in Kingsbridge, and directly shaped by these people. And so I just want to hand it over to Jacqueline to talk a little bit more about some of the land use actions for this plan.
Good evening, Jackie Scarinci from Ackerman. So tonight is an exciting part of the Uniform Land Use Review procedure process. This is we are now in the 60-day community board review for this project. So we're officially on the ULURP clock. And this is the opportunity for the community and also for Community Board 7 to provide their input on the proposal and to ask questions as you may have them. And as part of our land use application, we are asking for a series of actions to facilitate the proposed development. And the first one is the disposition of city-owned land that will be in the form of a ground lease between 8th Regiment Partners and EDC. The second is a zoning map amendment that will rezone the existing C44 zoning to an M14A R72 MX district. And this action will allow for manufacturing use to be allowed at the site. Currently, the zoning does not permit light manufacturing use. Otherwise, the proposed MX district maintains the same residential and commercial uses and density that are currently permitted today. We're also requesting zoning text amendments to establish an MX district, which will allow for that manufacturing use and to increase the indoor arena capacity for the special permit from 6,000 participants to 17,000 persons in the arena. As well, we are requesting 2 special permits, one that will allow the indoor arena for the live event venue that we're proposing as part of the project with a 17,000 person capacity, and then an additional special permit which will be for a public parking garage that will allow for parking in excess of 150 parking spaces. And finally, this ULURP is also concurrent with Landmarks Preservation Commission application and also review by the Public Design Review Commission. And I'm now going to turn it over to Ward Dennis, who will walk you through the scope of the Landmarks application.
Evening, everybody. My name is Ward Dennis, principal with Higgins Quays Barth and Partners, preservation consultants here in New York City. I'm just going to run through the scope of the landmarks review. All of the work that we're talking about here will be presented in a moment by Austin and Shiva. But just to highlight what the Landmarks Commission specifically will be looking at in terms of their review at public hearing in July. The work includes new and enlarged openings at the base of the armory, new glazed infill within the existing drill hall openings at the armory. You can see on the right these historic photos from around 1914 showing those end walls under construction. They were replaced by the existing fiberglass covering in about 1970 or so. There will also be new signage, new windows at the head house, new guardrails at the head house roof, new through-wall louvers on the rear north elevation of the armory, new glass infill at the drill hall sidewalls, new high-performance roof with additional insulation over the drill hall, creation of skylights at the roof, and installation of solar panels at the roof. And then in terms of the new construction on the north end of the site, the 2 existing National Guard buildings that you can see in the 2 photos on the right, both of which are not historic buildings, those will both be demolished, and then a new residential building will be constructed along West 195th Street. There will be some connections between the new residential building and the armory with some associated removals of masonry at the armory. And there is an areaway along the north side of the armory that will be infilled as part of this work. And then finally, you will be seeing proposals for new landscaping and site work throughout the site, particularly along the south and west sides of the building. That part of the work is also part of Landmark's review. So I will hand it over now to Austin to take us through the design. Thank you.
Thanks, Ward. So we're going to shift now to the design vision of this project, which really begins with a set of guiding principles, right? The principles by which we are committing to building on the Together for Kingsbridge plan, making this armory accessible to as many people as possible, creating jobs, preserving history, bringing on union labor, and bringing complementary investments to this community through a variety of uses and affordable housing. So what does all that look like? We are very excited to share today how we're activating this historic structure, and we're going to get into all of it. But before we go inside, we want to start with everything that we're designing outside the armory first. And we're designing this with our amazing partners at Scape Studio. And we are designing all of these open spaces, all the active public spaces that will connect to and engage the neighborhood around the site. And by the way, it's a very large site. So different parts of the site are doing different things, but all of it through one cohesive open space plan and vision. So for example, on Jerome and 195th Street, we're expanding the sidewalk. We're moving the curb out to make it safer for pedestrians. And then along Reservoir, we're creating a play plaza for kids to come over after school with a water feature. We're preserving these amazing mature trees that are already there to create an urban grove, the Kingsbridge LA, where you can sit in the shade of these amazing trees that are already there and which we're layering with additional trees and shrubs and seating. And then along the Kingsbridge corridor, you may be familiar with that sort of bizarre asphalt triangle that sort of sticks into the road. We're actually capturing that area to create a large open plaza with benches and steps and plantings and movable furniture and a new canopy structure under which you might set up a pop-up market stall or just hang out, or maybe there's like a merch table for a concert that's happening inside. Here's a section through that plaza relative to the armory. The idea is simply that this becomes a flexible outdoor plaza space that the community can use and enjoy in ways that's intentionally different from all the other parks in the neighborhood, right? It's supposed to provide a function that the neighborhood doesn't already have. So all in all, we are talking about almost an acre and a half of new, active, flexible, open public space right here in the Kingsbridge neighborhood. And this is just the outside. Then there's all the stuff that's actually going to happen inside the buildings. And I have to say, we're very excited about this amazing set of programs going on in this project. We're talking about a new, as has been said, a new live events concert venue, big enough for 17,000 people, new entertainment and recreation spaces for people of all ages, music recording studios, cultural spaces, dedicated community spaces, spaces for light manufacturing and tech, and it's a lot. So what does the armory look like when you start filling it up with all those amazing programs? Because this is what the armory looks like now. And at the end of the day, we believe that no matter what we do, no matter what we design here, the best thing about this project is always going to be what's already there in the project, right? This amazing historic space, this amazing historic structure. So as we started designing for all of those programs that I just rattled off, what we realized is that above all, we have really two important jobs that we have to keep here. One is to not mess this up, not screw this up. And two, make this as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. That's it, right? Do no harm. So in concept, that's what we're doing, right? We're making it a little bit more open, metaphorically, a little bit more soft, right? We're just bringing in a little bit of sky and we're putting down a carpet or a tapestry, right? Something that softens this space by weaving together all of these different uses and communities and voices and ideas, which of course is how tapestries are always made, as in a Dominican Palisa, for example, right? You pull together different bits from different places and you make something new. So we are proposing a Kingsbridge tapestry. It's a tapestry that extends out to make the community more sustainable by creating a resilience hub and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, by connecting the ecological corridor of Aqueduct Walk, and by managing stormwater, by preserving trees and enhancing biodiversity. And it's a tapestry that extends in with this super diverse program, whether it's concerts or after-school athletics or culture. And you can see here, actually, the tapestry in red structurally inserted into the armory, right? It's floating inside the drill hall and bringing together, knitting together all of these different uses. So this is a kind of architectural section through the whole thing. I'm going to take you now through a series of plans, starting from the very top and working our way down. So this is the top floor. This is the kind of balcony level, where we have balcony spaces that look out through those big arched windows, iconic arched windows on the two ends of the building, with garden cafes and community steps that lead you down to the venue level. And so here's the venue level. This level has pre-function spaces to the east and west. It has spaces for a cultural center and community groups in the head house. But most obviously, it has this huge 60,000 square foot column-free flexible space in the middle. So I said before that we have like two jobs, right? To not mess this up and make it accessible to as many people as possible. So you can see how we're preserving this huge expanse of space, right? We're not mucking it up. And we're preserving something that we think is completely unique in this city. And is super flexible, right? So if you're a teenager who needs a place to hang out after school, maybe this is where you have practice. Or maybe this is where you are here to see your favorite artist on tour, because the Kingsbridge Armory is now the premier events venue for anyone who wants to perform in New York City. Maybe this is where the next great Bronx flea market wants to set up, or maybe this is where you have high school graduations or university convocations. You could do anything in this space, right? Below that venue level space, this is where this is really where the armory is accessible from the street. And again, the head house would be dedicated for community groups, which could be accessed directly from the historic entrance. So these are all the community group spaces dedicated. And then the drill hall would become a kind of public concourse, right? And it's activated with food and drinks and retail and entertainment and culture. So this is where you would come in directly off the street, where you'd have these entrances at the corners of the buildings, and you could go directly up to the venue level, or you could continue at the concourse level. And here you can actually like see the edge and the underside of the tapestry, right? And even from here, you could look up and see and experience the historic armory arches, or you could get a drink and grab a bite, much as you might find in many food halls elsewhere in the city. And then alongside those spaces in the drill hall, anchoring the historic head house, dedicated spaces for the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, Dominicanos USA. Below those levels, there are two more levels because the sidewalk actually slopes down towards Jerome. So we have public entrances to the concourse on Jerome one level down, and we're actually activating the full width of the armory here all along this street. We're activating this this wall with new entrances and new storefronts. And finally, a level below that, new parking and general building loading. So these lower levels will also have additional programming, right? Entertainment spaces with things like go-karts and arcades and bowling, esports, laser tag, birthday parties, a large new and also a large new hub for light manufacturing for Bronx-based makers and artisans and entrepreneurs and innovators. So that's like the big picture vision for the armory, right? So to make this all happen, as you know, we have submitted our drawings to city planning for ULURP. And in addition, as you just heard Ward note, we are submitting drawings to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. I'm not going to go into a deep dive of all of those LPC drawings, but I do want to show you a few key samples from that set, which we are submitting to CB7 as an appendix, just to give you a sense of what we're proposing relative to the historic structure. So, big picture, Our attitude is wherever there's like intricate, ornamental, historic stuff, leave it alone, right? So other than some signage on the towers and out in the landscape, all we're doing on the historic head house is replacing windows and making repairs wherever it's needed. And then at the corners, not in the head house, but in the body of the drill hall where we have plain unadorned masonry, we're introducing new primary entrances, right? Universally accessible, unlike the existing historic entrance, universally accessible entrances into the armory with new glass doors and new glass canopies. And then on the two ends, we're proposing to take down that awful corrugated 70s plastic in the big arch windows and replacing it with glass to bring in natural light into the venue. And again, introduce new openings in areas of plain masonry, like here on Reservoir Avenue. And on Jerome, similarly, to reuse the historic arched entrances at the corners, but then activate the street level by turning a few of these small, punched windows into floor-to-ceiling glass storefronts, which you can see more closely here. Turning this into this, right? Turning this into this. And you can also see here where we are reserving space for signage as well. And then finally, on the roof, we are introducing skylights and solar panels, none of which will actually be visible from the public right-of-way from the street. And we are re-roofing the whole thing. We are adding a bunch of new insulation for both energy efficiency purposes and also acoustic purposes, because after all, this will be for many weekends of the year a concert venue. Which brings me to something that might feel a little bit in the weeds, but I think it's an important point because after all, this is going to host significant concerts. So how are we planning to manage all the events, loading, and trucks that come with live events? So bear with me, okay? We're expecting shows for about 50 days a year, but a typical show is like a 2-day booking, and it takes about half a day to load one show. So that means for 25 mornings a year, we are loading a show. During those mornings, there will be crew members standing outside with flags to wave trucks in and out of the building and to make sure that pedestrians remain safe. And importantly, those trucks are unloaded 4 at a time inside the body of the building, right? They are not idling outside at the curb. There are no outdoor loading docks in this project. And once they're all unloaded, new trucks are then timed to load in just as these ones go out. And all of the actual truck marshaling happens off-site. And on-site, we're designing this project to mitigate the impact of these trucks to the greatest extent possible. I'm sure there's lots of questions about that, but we can address this accordingly. But with that, that's a big picture of the armory. Then we're building a whole building behind it, the residential building. So with that, I'd like to ask Shiva to jump in.
Thanks, Austin. Good evening. Thank you so much for giving us another opportunity to present this project. As Ward and Austin both mentioned, we're going to have a mixed-use development on the northern side of the armory along 195th. That is the existing location for the National Guard buildings, as Ward showed you. And we are putting a 16-story building with up to 500 ELA, extremely low and low affordable housing projects there. Can you please go to the next slide? So the whole design approach and design idea for this residential building was to make sure that we are not overlapping and we are not overarching the existing armory building. We're being respectful to the presence of the armory, the permanent presence and strong presence of the armory. So we started with some like a set of goals at the top of the list to create ground floor retail and a lot of as much affordable housing that we can on this site. So we started with a plain box. As you can see, I'm going to go from left to right. We started with a plain box just going up about 16-story high. Just in parentheses, we were allowed to go higher with the permitted zoning envelope. But again, we were trying to be respectful to the presence of the armory and not overarching of the landmark building. So we're going about 16-story high. We were trying to cut off the corners trying to make sure that we're not scoring off the corners and the elements, the historic elements on the Armory, and creating more space for that corner plaza that Austin just mentioned. Our next step was to create some sort of opening between the two wings of the building with respects to the two towers of the head house, giving a little bit of a breathing moment in the massing. And right after that, we're trying to get creative with like breaking down the massing, making sure that we have, like a contextual street wall, pleasant view for the pedestrian, and making sure that, again, we're hitting the goals of getting as many affordable units as we can. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is the overall look of the proposed residential building along 195th. As you can see, you're trying to work with different materials, getting inspired by the existing material of the Armory, going with the red brick. It was a no-brainer, but getting a little bit creative and innovative on putting potential shading on the red brick. And also for the setback portion that you see in the back on the upper levels, we're trying to, again, following the same concept as the material of the Armory, getting a little bit more of like the gray and whatever that is on the roof of the Armory to be reflected on the residential building. You can see that opening moments between the two tower portion, as we call it, for the residential building, mimicking the two the towers of the head house. These two larger portion of the residential building are being connected with a bridge, with a two-level bridge. That's going to be where there's going to be a lot of amenities, and you will see a better view of it in the next couple slides. Next, please. So as you can see here, you can clearly see the setback. You can see the comparison between the residential materials, proposed materials, and the existing materials in the Armory. You can see that corner portion with the diagonal cuts in the residential building, opening up again for the continuation of the plaza to wrap around the site. The whole ground floor is going to be proposed retail space, as was mentioned before, up to about 20,000 square feet of retail for being offered to the community and the local businesses. There's going to be a lot of moments and openings, even cutting through the ground floor of the residential to get to the Armory, and again making access as easy as possible for people in the community from everywhere, from all four sides, to get inside the Armory. And you can see it in the next slide. There you go. So that's the bridging between the two wings of the proposed building. That is the moment and the uniqueness of the accessing from 195th going into the Armory. That's it's going to be designed with like a set of stairs, and also being accessible with an elevator for ADA access. There's going to be, again, for foot traffic and making sure that everyone is going to have a safe experience and a pleasant experience on the sidewalk, on the expanded sidewalk and the widened sidewalk. We're going to have a lot of retail space along 195th. And again, that bridging portion is going to be filled with amenities for the residential building. And potentially we're going to have some sort of like a accessible roof over that for the residents. Next, please. Here's a closer look. Again, right when you get to the top of those stairs, and before you get to the entrance of the Armory, there's a moment that you see the clear sky. There's a gap. There's a 20-foot gap between the residential building and the structure of the Armory. So we were trying to create these moments of openings, making sure that we're being very respectful to the structure of the Armory, and we're not attaching the residential building all along the 195th side. Next, please. And again, this is the overall look that you've seen before in the previous slides. As you can see, the residential building is very much blending with the with the background context. And that was the whole design concept between, you know, the whole entire design team, to make sure that we're not impacting the strong presence of the Armory, and we're just creating this building as part of the urban fabric in the background. You know, as always, the seascape was the background to the Armory. So it's just blending with the background, and you really have to stare at this image to see the residential building in the back. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Austin. He's going to walk us through some of the sustainability features of the building. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shiva. So look, there's a lot of design work happening right now. To be honest, we can spend actually another full hour just talking about all of this. At the end of the day, though, I think it's really important to note that what we're doing here isn't really about aesthetics, it's about impact for Bronxites. So as Shiva mentioned, I want to conclude this kind of design portion of this presentation with a summary of what makes this a sustainable project. Because this is a project that I think it should be a model for decarbonizing buildings like this all around the city. We're going fully electric. We're aiming for LEED Gold. And even at this early stage, we're integrating sustainable features like solar panels, right? Like energy efficient mechanical systems. And that decarbonizing also extends out into the landscape strategy as well, because those mature trees that we're preserving, there's about 20 of them that we're keeping on site. We're fighting to keep on site. And the city estimates that trees like that absorb almost 50 pounds of CO2 a year, right? And then we're planting 60 more, right? So it's this notion that the landscape is also a form of infrastructure that supports air quality, it supports biodiversity, it supports pollinators and resiliency. So again, just to kind of think about this as a high impact project. So with that, I will turn it over to Lauren.
Hi there, Lauren George, C&B Consulting. So just to piggyback on some of the things that Austin already alluded to with the users, the really exciting mix of prospective users that 8th Regiment team has worked really hard to to engage with and has LOIs. So there are letters of interest from all of the users you see before you on this page, and we're really excited to report that, all of them really address the Together for Kingsbridge plan in really substantive ways, right? So as Sandra alluded to, the exciting MOU that we have with Northwest Bronx really brings to fruition a lot of the vision for community ownership, community space, and having a community hub here at the Armory. But we're also having Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, which is a long time amazing anchor organization that provides social services and family services and youth empowerment services, are going to have a significant footprint in the Armory as well. We're talking to Dominicanos USA to also have a significant footprint to have a gaming lab and create tech and esports training opportunities for youth, as well as doing their civic participation work that they have expertise in. And of course, also the organizing and diversity of empowerment roles that Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Council does, they're going to be bringing here and putting on a variety of programming that'll be informed by the community as this moves forward. But institutions that are part of this project, we have Lehman College, which is interested in doing a cultural center, a Mexican institute here, as well as workforce development programming. And we have Asphalt Green, who's interested in doing youth recreation. And we're exploring the way that that's going to work and how that's going to spatially be laid out. The event space we talked about extensively. Austin alluded to RPM. We also have a significant, exciting piece for the manufacturing and to have on multiple floors here. So that's going to bring training, incubator space for Bronx businesses. And the model is really providing affordable manufacturing space for companies that have good paying jobs to locate here. So there's a lot of diversity of uses. So, in addition to the Spanish broadcasting system, which could do sound studios, recording, and radio. So those are all addressing a lot of aspects to the vision plan as we discussed. If you go to the next slide, I want to share a sort of a summary of what's been said already, but just reiterate that we're very proud and very excited that the 8th Regiment team has worked with and engaged with stakeholders to ensure that the tenets of the vision plan are coming to life here with these agreements. So Sandra alluded to the two 99-year subleases that'll follow the ground lease with the city for the community hub and the light manufacturing space. There's going to be community governance here that's going to be governed through a community council, which will be made up of stakeholders, and we'll work with the stakeholders in the community working group to figure out exactly how that's formed and how people are nominated to it. But it will have its own self-governing structure, and it will participate in important decision-making for the Armory and how it's run. But the really important piece for the 8th Regiment and the MAD team is the economic opportunity, right? And it always has said that this could be an amazing economic engine for the Bronx, and that's what we see this as being, right? Hopefully it'll be super successful and there'll be a lot of activity going on all the time, but that really means family sustaining jobs. So projecting more than 600 jobs to be created by this project. I think that's an undercount, but we'll see, right? It depends on really what the layouts and the specific users are and how that ultimately shakes out. But the commitment to a project labor agreement is very clear, and we're proud to be working with unions on that. There's also a commitment to working with 32BJ for the Armory and for the residential space for the building service worker jobs, and Labor's Local 79 to work on the residential construction. There will be youth workforce and training opportunities through many partnerships, and our team is already thinking of ways to proactively track and engage with stakeholders on what organizations are interested in working with us and partnering on recruitment fairs and job opportunities when they arise, when the tenants are coming in. EDC will get into some of the community and hiring and MWBE goals as well. If you want to go to the next one. One of the really important pieces here is the youth recreation space that Asphalt Green will provide, but also the whole thing will be recreation, right? If you think about a live events venue, what is that? That's recreation for all ages. You have cultural events, you have esports and tech-based programming. So there's going to be a really wide variety of recreation opportunities here. Everybody's going to be just partying all the time. And really, we cannot overlook the importance of the housing. As Austin said, there's a whole building being built back here, and this is a very large affordable housing building, which will provide a significant amount of deeply affordable housing, which obviously we need in this housing crisis. And in the ground floor or a couple of floors of that building, there's a commitment to providing some below market retail opportunities to try to help businesses from this corridor adapt and adjust and be able to stay. So with that, I want to turn it, I believe, to EDC to talk about community hiring.
Hello, thank you, Lauren, and apologies for not having my camera on beforehand. For those who may have come a little bit later on, my name is Madison Hernandez. I'm with the EDC team, and so I'm going to quickly walk through about the community hiring program, which is, if you go to the next slide, please. A city initiative that builds on the Hire NYC program for those who are familiar, with the goal of connecting residents from economically disadvantaged communities to existing jobs and jobs created through major projects like Kingsbridge, as Lauren alluded to. And so, as you see here on the slide, there are two main ways to qualify for this program. One through residency and the other through income. For residency, you can live in a qualifying zip code, in a NYCHA building, or in a building that uses the housing choice voucher. For income, it's usually the household income has to fall under the federal poverty level by 300%. And so for the Kingsbridge community specifically, 100% of Kingsbridge residents qualify under the residential criteria. And so if you go to the next slide, please. So while 100% of Kingsbridge residents qualify under the city's community hiring criteria, it's important to note that this is not a local hiring program. And so while it draws from a citywide pool of job seekers from all different types of economically disadvantaged communities, that includes but is not limited to Kingsbridge. And so those who are included are a part of this opportunity pipeline, and these job seekers can be connected to vendors through referral sources like Workforce One, which folks may be familiar with, job placement organizations, unions, etc. But what does that mean for Kingsbridge specifically? And so one thing that I would like to note at the top of this slide is that the construction for Kingsbridge will be subject to a project labor agreement, and these goals below, as you kind of see posted on this slide, would apply to the construction work. And so lease tenants and subtenants that expect to create 10 or more jobs will have to follow the following, will have to make best efforts to meet these goals laid out, which are the hiring goals, which is 50% of new jobs should be filled by community hires, either through the residential or income criteria. There's a retention goal, because not only do we want to get people into jobs, we want to keep folks in their jobs. And so we have a retention goal of 40% to keep them over 9 months. And then not only do we want to hire folks and we want to keep them, but we want to provide opportunities for advancement as well. And so the advancement goal is to promote 30% within 12 months, so within a year. And a lot of the questions that we do receive when we talk about community hiring is, what about accountability? How do we ensure that tenants are actually following through with what these goals are? And so in addition to City Council legislation that was recently passed that requires annual reporting on performance metrics, assessments of these goals, and descriptions of best efforts, there will also be required to separately from the City Council legislation to contact EDC at routine intervals and document efforts to meet these goals. And so that's just a little bit about community hiring. We can go to the next slide, because I recognize that we're short on time, but I want to hear and talk about small business services. And this is definitely, I think, one of the number one things that we hear from the community and hear loud and clear is the displacement of small businesses and the fear of that, especially as these are the folks and the places who have been here before, during, and will be hopefully after the redevelopment here. And so if we go to the next slide, please. As we look for ways to support Kingsbridge, and we don't have to start from scratch, and we're working with the partners that you see here on this slide to look at the existing set of programs that have been deployed in different neighborhoods throughout the city through SBS programming. And so we have a chance to kind of bring some of those tools to the Bronx in new and in more tailored ways. And so the EDC team is working very closely with the council member, with 8th Regiment, and with SBS, the Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce Development, which is leading the charge on community hiring, and NYC's Industrial Development Agency, to kind of evaluate what business strategies we can deploy as we move forward in this redevelopment. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, and so this is some of the existing programming that I was alluding to. And so the city already has a robust toolkit to support some of these small businesses, particularly in neighborhoods that are undergoing these rezonings or major developments. And so this is not the whole breadth of what's available and what we can do at Kingsbridge, but this is just to show that there are services that include direct services like legal support, business education, access to capital, as well as more longer term strategies like relocation support, commercial corridor assessments, grant programming. And so our goal here is to kind of see the ways that these tools can be scaled and shaped specifically for this community as a starting point. And will continue to be redefined and refined as we evaluate and understand more about the local needs, as Lauren was alluding to, as we will kind of track to see what do the businesses in the area need and kind of want as we move through this process. So I just want to make it very clear that this is not a comprehensive strategy, but a preview of what we're able to build on here. And so the opportunity ahead is to really tailor and combine these strategies in collaboration with the folks here. And so definitely looking forward to hearing more about what you think could be in store. And then if we go to the next slide, to talk a little bit about the upcoming milestones and points of engagement that we have for this ULURP process. Okay, and so it's a little bit small, even for me. And so as you see in the orange, these are kind of the next touch points that we have with the community board. We were certified into ULURP on the 19th. And so today is the 28th. So we're at the virtual public hearing. Next week, we do have the in-person public hearing. And then Thank you for the mouse. And then on the 10th, we have another committee meeting with this body. On the 12th, we meet with the executive committee of this body. And then on the 17th, we are heading towards a vote. And so then when we kind of move to the next section, you kind of see the more things that we know are milestones within this ULURP process and environmental review, but don't have targeted dates as of yet. And so in July, we will go before, fingers crossed, the Bronx Borough President to hear their recommendation. We will have a public hearing with LPC. As we move into later summer, we will have public hearings with CPC and DEIS, and then in September, have the City Planning Commission vote, and then landing with the City Council with a public hearing and then a vote, hopefully by November. And so the orange phase is where we're currently at with the community board, and then the blue is kind of where we're moving in toward. And so that concludes the presentation, but I just wanted to once again thank the chairperson, the district manager, the members of the committee to giving us this venue to present our proposal for the Armory. And this is a really special moment that can't be understated, and we look forward to any questions or hearing any comments you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. We appreciate all of the hard work you guys have put into this presentation. Like I said before, we are having another public hearing in person. That will be on June 3rd, Tuesday, June 3rd. And that again will be more time frame for the public to ask questions once that public hearing takes place. This will not be the only one. There will be more than one as stated. So now I'm going to pass it on to Carla for our first person with questions.
Good evening, everyone. If 13 people signed up to speak for the public hearing, so those are the 13 names that we're going to call on. I do not see in the room Ro R, Sare Davids, Diana Rivera, Oliver Rivera, Eileen Gregory. So if you are in the room, please rename yourself so I can go ahead and unmute you. But we'll start first with Estefina Fisher.
Hi, good evening. Can I share my video or just audio? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stefina Fisher, and I'm a 16-year-long Bronx teacher in District 10. And my classes have been involved in all the Together for Kingsbridge visioning meetings and more. And I just wanted to share that at the environmental impact review, I heard a lot of the majority of voices advocating for community ownership with the regenerative local economy. And on the May 13th CB7 meeting, the presentation revealed that the plans had chalked up to an engine for employment opportunities, which meant like offering jobs, not necessarily community ownership. And so today I'm excited because we're hearing that our demands for community ownership, especially with the elements shared by Northwest Bronx, are being realized, the light manufacturing, the community co-governance, and more. And so instead of simply promising employment, I really want to see this plan outline structures for youth to join a meaningful stake in decision-making and a meaningful stake in the economic future of their Bronx.
All right, thank you, Stefina. Just a friendly reminder, everyone has 1 minute to speak. So if you can please go ahead and time yourselves. I'll try to put a timer on the screen. Next, we have Brenda Irizarry, followed by Edgar Ramos.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brenda Irizarry. I have a concern, and it relates to the housing piece. I'd like to know how many the apartments are being designated for the low income. Because when I was listening to the City Planning Commission with the review with the Armory redevelopment on May 19th, Commissioner Benjamin made a note that only 25% of the apartments will be allocated for low income. So I'm thinking if that's the case, out of 500 apartments, only 125 are designated for low income. The developer should revisit this allocation since the AMI for Kingsbridge and surrounding areas is $39,829. So I just like to double check with that, if that's the case, that only 125 apartments, which is 25%. All right,
All right, thank you, Brenda.
you're welcome.
Would anyone like to respond to that question? Is it all 500 units or just a portion of it?
Sure, we can respond to that. So the project is contemplated to be financed through the current city term sheets, which is the ELA program, which is for extremely low and low income affordable tenants. And, I know the development team is open to working with the city on the AMI levels, but the current proposal for the income levels is based on the city's term sheet, and that ranges from 30% AMI up to 80% AMI. And if to put it into numbers, in 2025, someone making 30% AMI, it ranges from 34,000 for an individual up to 43,000 for a family of three. And then it will range up to 80% AMI, which is about 90,000 for an individual to 116,000 for a family of three. So there's a pretty wide range of individuals that the housing will accommodate. And but we do hear the community on working with the city to see if we can get to lower affordable levels for the community here as well. But what was presented in terms of affordability is what the current term sheets at each PD have.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll move on to Edgar Ramos.
Good evening. My name is Edgar Ramos. One of the questions or concerns I have is in reference to the project labor agreement, because the city mayor announced the PLA was signed way before a developer was even elected. So I don't understand how that could have been signed that way. I just hope that the project labor agreement has state accredited unions being used, not just a group of people that call themselves a union. It's also important that the community board, I believe, was trying to see if they could get some space, maybe in the housing for a community board office, since we're having issues where we're leasing from. Besides that, I just hope the project works to, help those in the neighborhood and, brings business to everyone in a positive manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Edgar. We'll move on to Ryan Barbieri.
Hello there. Good evening. My name's Ray Barbieri. I am the CEO of the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, known in the neighborhood as KHCC to many of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I just want to share that KHCC was founded in 1974 by 3 local women who petitioned City Hall to transform a former Bronx police station into a community settlement house built by, of, and for the Kingsbridge Heights community. Now, 51 years later, KHCC is one of the Bronx premier multi-service community-based organizations. And each year we serve more than 6,500 children, youth, and adults through a wide range of programs, including early childhood, youth development, civic engagement, family enrichment, mental health and wellness, food justice, and community empowerment. Since our founding, we've supported over 400,000 community members, and we're just getting started. We're very, very proud to have been a part of the Together for Kingsbridge working group, which helped shape and define this bold shared vision for the future of the Kingsbridge Armory. And now, as the ULURP process begins, we are thrilled to be partnering with 8th Regiment partners and Mad Equities and EDC to help bring that vision to life. With the steadfast support of all of our city electeds, Councilmember Perina Sanchez, Borough President Vanessa Gibson, all of our fellow Bronx leaders, and our sister organizations like Northwest Bronx and other nonprofits. KHC is just very excited about the opportunity to expand our mission through a new outpost at the Kingsbridge Armory that will allow us to extend our reach, collaborate with even more neighbors, and develop new youth, family, workforce, and community development initiatives. Together, we look forward to creating.
Ray, can you wrap up? Your time is up. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jennifer Salgado.
Yes, hello everyone. Apologies. Just really quickly, my name is Jennifer Salgado. I'm a local resident, born and raised in the area. Just wanted to share a concern, which is the same as one of my neighbors previously mentioned. There are families in the surrounding neighborhoods who are currently living doubled up. And so it really is concerning to hear that only 25% of 30 to 51 AMI is going to be allocated for folks in the surrounding neighborhood or within this AMI bracket. I know very little, maybe a handful of people who are actually making within the range of 51 to 80%. So I really do hope that that's reconsidered in future plans. The following week, I will be testifying in representation of the Street Vendor Project, as I also have concerns regarding the use of public space in the outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we'll hear from Juan Núñez.
I will not be testifying. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Juan. Next, we'll hear from Chad Royer.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So my name is Chad Royer. I just want to share my support for the hopes of Community Board 7 to have an office so that the community can attend meetings in a place where it's easy to get to. I just want to share that comment. But I also have a concern, putting my parent leader hat on. PS 86 is right across the street. I've been the Parent Association president for a few years, and just upon reading Piers Morgan Uncensored on May 8, 2025, and the Norwood News article May 12th that discusses semiconductor fabrication plants that was mentioned by Mayor Adams. And my concerns are over stated hazards, toxic gas exposure, chemical burns, cancer-causing agents, explosions, electrocution, radiation, and wastewater. And I would like to know, are semiconductor fabrication plants in play for the project? And if so, what's going to be the way to address these proposed hazards, if there are any? I would just like some clarification if that's available. Thank you.
Sure, I can take that one and then pass it to Jorge. So generally there at very early stage of this project, there was a conversation about tech. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I was trying to answer. So is it okay? I'm going to take that question. I just want to reassure you that at this point, there was definitely a conversation early on about tech manufacturing and opportunities to bring in a large scale tech-related business. But at this point, that is not being contemplated. So just to set your mind at ease, that is not in the cards, and what we've shared tonight is what is being contemplated. So the manufacturing uses would be smaller, mostly smaller businesses that have like a handful of employees doing things like millwork, custom fabrication, food manufacturing potentially, but a lot of it is smaller, crafts and things like that. So definitely not something in the realm of a high tech. That's been mentioned.
Lauren, you said that Jorge will follow, or that's
I think that's really it at this point.
okay. Thank you,
I
Lauren.
mean, this is what we're proposing tonight is what the plan is. So yeah.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Christian Ramos.
Yes, hello.
We can hear you.
Yes, definitely. Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Christian Ramos. I'm a member, part of active member of 4 years from Kingsbridge Merchant Association. I grew up as a business owner, a small business owner in Kingsbridge Road corridor. And I have two questions. Somebody can respond it about a community user. You guys appointing as a Northwest Community Coalition as a small community leader. But me as a representation and a group, we would like to know you guys kind of added another, like you already did it with a Kingsbridge and Cambridge High. You guys later on, the process is long. You can add another nonprofit organization. That's the first question. And the second one, according with more of the housing apartments on the first floor, more of the housing apartment, low income or middle income, they put some stores. Our business owner gonna have the opportunity to be a part of the tenant of this building, is these housing buildings or not?
Yes, that's definitely part of the plan. So the vision here is to have the space in the residential building, which is up to 20,000 square feet or so. And that could be divided up in lots of different ways to be leased at below market rates to try to specifically address, the concerns that you and others have shared about small business protection in the community. So we'd have to, of course, get approval from the agencies involved. HPD is an important part of that building. It's an affordable housing building, so they have a very important role to play. But the intention is to work with the community and our partners at Northwest Bronx and on the community council that will be formed to create implementation plans for how those spaces will be allocated.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the public testimony for this public hearing. If anybody has any questions, I will leave my email address and phone number in the chat. You can email me, you can text me, and I'll be able to relay those questions to the developing team, and then they'll get back to you. I'll pass the mic over to Yahaira.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everyone, for coming on today to this public hearing. Also, keep in mind that these are stages, right? I know we all have a lot of questions as to the housing component, the businesses component. The idea here right now is to get to stage one, which is to actually get to the point where we can start really, really taking into these designs and what next steps are going to be. I want us to focus on that first aspect of it first. Like Carla said, CB7 is open to any emails, text messages, questions. Again, I said it before, there's going to be another public hearing and a few more as this project goes along. So I invite everyone to either come to the public hearings, come to the community board meetings. These are meetings where you get a lot of good information. Follow us on our social medias because we do post any like public hearings and other meetings that may happen in between. You never know. The way the climate is, things can change tomorrow. So keep updated with us as to what events could be happening next and what meetings could be happening next. I want to thank everyone who joined today, Northwest Clergy Coalition, the 8th Regiment Partners team, EDC, everyone who came on, board members, members of the public. Thank you for taking the time to join us and be a part of this experience, because it is an experience that we're all going to hopefully live through and see come to fruition. That is our hope. So one last thing, remember, this is in parts, in pieces. It's not happening at a blink of an eye. It's going to take its time, and there's going to be a lot more information being processed. Once again, thank you everyone for coming over tonight to join us, and send us your questions. We will pass them over. Carla and I and the rest of the community board members are here to help. If you see us and you happen to see us in the area or in the neighborhood and you have a question, we'll tell you to text it to us or email it to us so that we can pass it along and give you the best information. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time. Thank you everyone, and have yourselves a good night.